How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Could you give me some idea?
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
this the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. Nigga, hallelujah. They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. All my niggas Nazis, nigga, hallelujah. Nigga, hallelujah. Nigga, hallelujah. All my niggas Nazis, nigga, hallelujah. Nigga, hallelujah. Nigga, hallelujah. Nigga, hallelujah. They don't understand the things I say on Twitter.
What up, guys? What up? Hey, I shouldn't be in that part of the screen. I should be on this part of the stream. Do you guys see that you see the chat now? Wait. The chat. The chat is now displayed on the screen. Apparently. Now, I can't change the position that the chat is displayed in, so we're just going to have to get used to this. This is a feature that, and I can't change the style. I would probably make the chat bigger. I would also probably move the chat over to the other side of the screen, but I can't change anything because this is like a feature that StreamYard is testing or something. But you guys get to see yourself on screen now if you chat in, which is kind of cool. Don't be dicks about it or I'll take it away. All right. Don't be dicks. Don't do it. All right. Well, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. You like it, Reagan? Awesome. That's all that matters. It's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Hey, so something funny is happening over on the Twitters. Something funny is happening over on the Twitters. Christopher Rufo. What's going on over on the Twitters is that Christopher Rufo seems to be posting an awful lot about how Santa Ono is woke. All of a sudden, Christopher Rufo is posting a lot about how Santa Ono is woke. Oh, Harmeet's posting about it? Oh. All of a sudden, people are posting about how Santa Ono, the outgoing president of the University of Michigan, who is supposed to be the incoming president at the University of Florida, all of a sudden they're posting about how he's woke. Let's look at my Twitter feed, shall we? No, I'm not looking at this in my account. Let's see. Santa Ono on my account. Isn't this interesting? Because I posted on May 5th. May 5th, which is the day that Santa Ono announced that he was leaving the University of Michigan to go to Florida. I posted the email that went out to the University of Michigan community saying, hey guys, I'm the only finalist for the University of Florida gig, so I'm going to be leaving. Bye. That was May 5th, okay? And I said, the president of the University of Michigan, Santa Ono, who let radical socialist activism proliferate on campus, has been selected as the next president of the University of Florida, but keep telling yourselves Florida's anti-woke. I posted that on May 5th. And then Christopher Rufo on May 8th, 3 days later, posted, Santa Ono, the finalist for the University of Florida president, has published an op-ed repudiating his past support for DEI 2.0, claiming that after reflection, DEI is more about ideology and division than bureaucracy. So it kind of seemed like on May 8th, for some reason, Chris Rufo was running cover for Santa Ono saying, hey guys, Santa Ono may have supported DEI in the past, but don't worry. Don't worry. He's totally not woke. Pinky swear, trust me, bro. In fact, he repudiated his support for DEI. And he specifically highlighted where Santa Ono says, that's why as president at the University of Michigan, I made the decision to eliminate centralized DEI offices and redirect resources towards academic support and merit-based achievement. And I saw Chris Rufo post that at the time, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Chris? What the fuck are you doing? Because I know people. First of all, I've known Santa. I knew who Santa Ono was probably a decade ago, because I'm not going to say Santa Ono could pick me out of a crowd or anything, because he probably couldn't. Santa Ono has met millions of people, but I worked with Santa Ono. It was either right before he got his first presidency or right after it, when I was in higher education, when I was doing consulting in higher education. And so I knew who Santa Ono was from like a decade ago. And I always said about him, I don't think he's a bad guy. I really don't. I actually don't think that Santa Ono is a bad guy, like, at all. He's actually a really interesting guy. But I said from the beginning, Santa Ono didn't eliminate DEI at the University of Michigan. There is no reality in which Santa Ono eliminated DEI at the University of Michigan. And I knew that because in my community, I have people who work at the University of Michigan with access to this type of information. And I was like, what the ever-loving F are you doing? Going to bat for Santa Ono because it's in Florida. And then what happened is last week, and this was on May 14th, last week, we infiltrated a librarian training webinar in which one of the librarians presenting on this webinar is a librarian at the University of Michigan. And not only is this person a librarian at the University of Michigan where Santa Ono is leaving, this person is a gender and sexuality librarian. And on this webinar, I asked explicitly, how's DEI doing at the University of Michigan? And the answer was, yeah, everyone's organizing to fight for DEI at the University of Michigan, and the librarians are organizing with the faculty and all this stuff, and we're going to fight for DEI at the University of Michigan. And so I posted this video to Twitter on May 14th, and I said, last week, Real Chris Rufo said incoming University of Florida president Santa Ono crushed DEI as president of the University of Michigan. So how did I record a gender and sexuality librarian from Michigan 2 days ago talking about pushing DEI on campus and organizing with students explicitly? Because that's the other thing they were talking about, was not only that were the DEI librarians going to organize with the faculty at the University of Michigan, they were also going to organize with the students. Posted that on Twitter May 14th. Well, since I posted that clip on Twitter, Chris Rufo has been tweeting a lot about how Santa Ono is woke all of a sudden. And look, I mean, listen, I posted that on Twitter on the 14th. Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. Chris Rufo on the 14th. Let's just go back on his Twitter feed. Okay, so this is on the 14th. Nothing about Santa Ono on the 14th when I first posted that clip on Twitter. Nothing about Santa Ono on the 15th, the day after I posted. He posted about James Lindsay saying that a sandwich was the woke right, but not about Santa Ono. Keep going. 15th, he's not posting about Santa Ono here. Oh, we're on to the 16th. Still not posting about Santa Ono. No, so this is now several days removed from when I first started screaming about this. He's posting about sandwiches. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Oh, still not posting about Santa Ono. No, still going. Oh, up to May 18th. May 18th, he's not posting about Santa Ono. Oh, wow. Still not posting about him. Oh, May 19th. May 19th. Chris Rufo starts posting all these clips of Santa Ono saying, hey guys, do we maybe think that this is a bad idea? Hey guys, do we think... And by the way, I'm going to tell you this, Harmeet Dillon also had that clip before Chris Rufo started posting about it publicly on Twitter. Hey guys, do you think Santa Ono's woke? Because there's all this stuff of him saying all these things are woke, and I know it was only a week ago that I swore that he totally smashed DEI at the University of Michigan, but now I'm just a little concerned that Santa Ono is woke and maybe shouldn't be the new president at the University of Florida. And that's all he's been tweeting about for the past day and a half. So I just want it to be for the record that I called this out on May 5th, which was 2 weeks before Chris Rufo got around to it. And right after I called it out, Chris Rufo posted, guys, Santa Ono crushed DEI at the University of Michigan, okay? He eliminated DEI at the University of Michigan. Now, none of this is to shit on Rufo. It's really not. However, I think we can all acknowledge who got there first. I think we can all acknowledge who had their finger on the pulse of this thing from the very beginning. And maybe if more people listen to me instead of waiting for the narrative talking points to come down, then maybe we wouldn't have issues. Like, I'm still waiting. Hang on. Can we just talk about this? New college. Because I am still waiting. Not there, not there. Oh, I'm still waiting for an answer on this. You know, Chris Rufo wants to talk about how Santa Ono's woke all of a sudden. I would like some answers about this clip that I got on April 15th, over a month ago. Let's listen. Let's listen.
I mean, I'm trying to make a little bit of a joke because, you know, it's such a grim time. Yeah. And I'm not just making fun of it, although one wants to make fun of it. It's very powerful. It's affecting so many people's lives. It's unbelievable. Healthcare, education, books that are banned. I mean, I actually went to Florida and hung out at the new school the new college, sorry, new school's better. The new college where they had banned the gender books, thrown them out, thrown them into a trash bin and dismantled the gender studies program. And, but the bookstore at that place bought 250 copies of this book and handed it out to everybody who came to. Yeah. Right? I just want you to know that there's a struggle.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what was that, Judith? I'm sorry, what? the New College of Florida bought 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book after they threw out all the gender books, after they swore up and down that they weren't going to do this anymore, and then they spent state money on 250 copies of her new gender book to hand it out to the students for free. Excuse me, what was that, Judith? Does Christopher Rufo know about this? Oh, he's going to hear about this, I'll tell you that.
Bad, the new college. And I'm not just making fun of it, although one wants to make fun of it. It's very powerful. It's affecting so many people's lives. It's unbelievable. Healthcare, education, books that are banned. I mean, I actually went to Florida and hung out at the new school the new college, sorry, new school's better. New college, the new college where they had banned the gender books, thrown them out, thrown them into a trash bin. And dismantled the gender studies program. And
so what you're seeing there is Judith Butler, one of the most influential gender activists of all time, speaking at a socialist publishing house, because this is at Haymarket House, sponsored by Haymarket Books. Haymarket Books is the most prolific socialist book publisher in the United States. Judith Butler speaking at their venue in Chicago. And Judith Butler saying, a couple weeks ago, I went to the New College of Florida, the supposed anti-woke New College of Florida. And when I went to talk at the New College of Florida, they bought 250 copies of my gender studies book, and they gave it out to students on campus for free. And this was, 6 months to a year after the New College of Florida made this big show of throwing out all their DEI books, and then all of a sudden they're quietly buying 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender book to give it out to students for free. And I find this all puzzling because did Rufo ever acknowledge this? No. Christopher Rufo would never acknowledge me publicly anymore. I'm way too inconvenient now. Now, he wouldn't be above stealing my stuff and recordings that I get if I allow him to do that and pretending that he got them on his own. He wouldn't be above that, which he's done before. But here's the question I have. If Santa Ono at the University of Michigan had bought 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book to give it out to students on campus for free, do you think Christopher Rufo would be posting that clip all over Twitter right now as he's pretending that he's the very first person to figure out that maybe Santa Ono is not... I don't actually think that Santa Ono's woke. I just think that he's not going to do anything about it because he wants to remain president of the university. Because this has always been Santa Ono's thing. Santa Ono's thing for a decade now has been trying to get the most prestigious university presidency that he can to sit back and say, I'm a prestigious university president. So I don't necessarily think that Santa Ono's woke. I think Santa Ono just wants to be president of a university. And if he has to keep his mouth shut and let faculty do their DEI bullshit, he's going to do it because he gets to be president of the university. But if Christopher Rufo had some sort of clip of Judith Butler saying, I want to give this talk at the University of Michigan, and when I did that, they gave out 250 free copies of my gender studies book. Do you think that Christopher Rufo would be sharing that clip today? I think he'd be sharing that clip today. And I just want to point out that I was right. And everyone needs to acknowledge I was right. And everyone needs to just acknowledge that I got there literally 2 weeks ahead of Rufo. Per fucking usual. And I just wanted to be acknowledged that Christopher Rufo has yet to make any comment on the fact that Judith Butler not only spoke at the New College of Florida, which I'm pretty sure he's on the board of trustees for, and also that the New College of Florida spent taxpayer money on 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book while claiming to be the anti-woke college in Florida. Now, he may not have known about this, but it's not like I went searching that information out. We found that out by accident. How many other things are going on at the new College of Florida that we don't know about? How many other stories? This is the constant question with people like him. And again, I have a lot of respect for things that Chris Rufo has done. So I'm not going to shit on him as hard as I'm going to shit on someone like James Lindsay, who has completely lost the fucking plot. James Lindsay's work has been completely unhinged for years. At least Rufo's work is hinged into reality. It's just a narrative shill. It's a narrative. And if what is happening in reality doesn't align with the approved narrative, then you're never, ever, 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 ever going to hear about it from him. Because the only thing he posts and the only things his audience knows are the approved narrative. And when I say approved, I mean by the people who fund the Manhattan Institute, the Zionists who fund the Manhattan Institute. And so there are so many stories that he's never going to talk about and so many things he's never going to acknowledge. Even when it's literally put in his face. It will only be acknowledged if it's convenient for the narrative. And this is the problem with the conservative establishment, because they will never show you the things that you need to know when it is inconvenient to their narrative or when it just doesn't align with what they wanted to say. Bear Boy said, honestly, the more I learn from you, the more it seems the right is unprepared for what is to come. The right has no fucking idea what is coming. They have no idea. They have no idea at all. Hey, thanks, Chris, for the super chat. I don't know who that is, but thank you for the money. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. So I just wanted to start off with that little tidbit because, you know, I was right, and I was right first, and I was right way before he was. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I was right way before he was. Let's see if I can go back here. Is this where it is? I was right way before he was, per usual. So if you want to know what's actually going on the left, come over here. I'll show you. I'll show you. Come over here. Come hang out with us. We'll show you what's actually going on, because you know what? I'm not part of any political establishment. I will never be part of any political establishment. I will not take money from anyone who wants me to shill a political narrative. My only job is to tell you the truth and show you the receipts. And I showed you the receipts last effing week from the University of Michigan saying that no, Santa Ono did not crush DEI on campus, unlike what he said in the Wall Street Journal or wherever he said it. No, that didn't happen. No, sorry, didn't happen. Why is that up there like that? There we go. So if you want the real story, come here, because you're not going to get it anywhere else. And the reason that you get the real story here is we only deal in primary source evidence. And so I've been doing a little research. Today. You guys are not going to believe some of the crazy shit I found today. Yep, I was right again. As always. And the thing about my stuff, guys, is I will always just show you the evidence up front. You don't need to, I don't need to do what Rufo does and wait to get the clips that he takes out of context from the larger presentation, and he only gives you the clips and you never see the full presentation. I don't need to do that. I'll just show you the full presentation and then we can talk about it. I have this crazy idea that people are smart enough to think for themselves. I don't know. Anyway. So I was doing some research today, and I really wanted to get into disability studies, because disability studies is an area that we haven't really talked about all that much. And I was like, wouldn't it be fun to do a crazy queer disability studies presentation? So I started doing some research on YouTube. Listen, disability studies seems to have gone out of fashion in the past couple years, probably since October 7th, to be honest. But leading up to October 7th, disability studies was lit. There was so much crazy stuff on YouTube around disability studies, and I'm just going to show you just a couple things that I found within a 15-minute search on YouTube today. Imagine what I could find if I took half an hour or even a day or so. I bet I would uncover some of the craziest shit you've ever seen, and we're gonna look into that. Why are conservatives so obsessed with hearing narratives from their influencers instead of digging in deeper critically? Bear Boy, if I knew the answer to this question, I would still probably have more of my sanity intact. If I knew the answer to this question, it would be like the Hallelujah chorus singing down from the sky as the sun radiates through the clouds. If I had the answer to this question, I don't know. My best guess is many conservatives are simple people who don't care enough or aren't smart enough to look into the deeper meaning behind things because they just want everything handed to them. They pretend they're the ones that pull themselves up by their bootstraps. No, they're not. They want everything handed to them and they want everything to be easy and they don't want to have to think and they don't want to have to do work. And they just expect everything to be done for them by everyone else, which is why they never do activism or protest or anything like that. I don't know. I'm not saying all conservatives are like that. I also think a lot of Democrats are like that. I also think a lot of liberals are like that. I also think a lot of progressives are like that. I'm not saying it's all conservatives. I'm not saying it's only conservatives, but I'm saying there are a lot of conservatives that are just simple people. Couch surfing, waiting for someone to save them, means they never have to actually do anything. Isn't that funny? So let me show you some of the things that I found in my brief 15-minute tour around disability studies on YouTube. Queer Cripping Anarchism, Intersections and Reflections on Anarchism, Queerness, and Disability. This has all sorts of promise. This person's wearing a gun t-shirt. So you think that socialists don't have guns? They're wearing a gun t-shirt, okay? We're not going to watch that one today, though. I found a whole bunch of presentations about autism and gender identity, which of course is a subject that we've been delving into for years on this channel. The fact that they're explicitly targeting autistic kids with queer ideology in school, we've talked about that many times. More autism and gender dysphoria. Oh, wow. Wow. This is interesting. This is on the DePaul University Alumni Office YouTube channel. Why this is on the Alumni Office YouTube channel, I can't quite figure out, but this is a webinar that the Alumni Office at DePaul University did. Unruly QTs, Queer and Trans Intersections with Disability Justice and Madness. We have to watch that. We have to watch that. We're going to watch that, but we're not going to watch it today. Check this one out. You know this person's going to be crazy. Look at this. Look at this. Teaching inclusive African American history, decolonization, LGBTQ+, and disability perspectives. You know this is going to be a great presentation. It was uploaded apparently by this kid that's teaching. This is a talk at Antioch College. We've got their lesson plan. This looks like a good one. We're not going to watch it today, though. How about this one? Check this one out. You guys are going to love this one. We belong to one another, disability, and family making. This person's got a queer haircut. This person's got a queer haircut. This person looks disabled. This is made possible by the National Endowment for the Humanities. You know what this is going to be about, right? This is going to be about family of choice and basically how we need to build our own families and how we all have to care for each other. This is the same school of thought that comes out of the Sophie Lewis camp. But we're not going to watch that today. We're going to watch that someday, just not today. Because today we will be watching talks from Cal Poly University the gender and sexuality department. And there are two things I want to watch. Oh, Mio, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. I don't know if you're a Scorpio exactly, but you have Scorpio in your chart somewhere. You're going to love this. This is going to be like right up your alley. Just take a seat, relax, okay? Take a seat. I can, actually. I can. You're not the boss of me. We're going to be this is on Cal Poly's YouTube channel. This is not my fault. So the first thing I found on Cal Poly's YouTube channel, and this is actually the first thing I want to watch. So if you want the BDSM presentation, sit tight, Mio. We know Mio's very excited about the BDSM presentation. I don't know what that means about Mio specifically, and don't think I'm not going to think about this, Mio, about why you're so excited about this BDSM presentation, but I found this one first. This is a 20-minute video called Crip Queer at the Intersection of Queerness and Disability. And it's presented by a they, she. And this person is an access specialist with the Cal Poly Disability Resource Center. So we're going to watch this about 20 minutes. And then BDSM 101. And you can see it's right here on their YouTube channel. It's not my fault that Cal Poly decided to stream BDSM 101 on their... I am going to read into it. Listen. You think telling me don't read into this is actually going to prevent me from reading into it? It's like you're waving a carrot in front of me saying, Karlyn, will you please psychoanalyze me from this perspective? Because I'm telling you not to do this, which means I maybe even want you to do this, but I'm trying to pretend that I don't want you to do this. Will you just please psychoanalyze me from exactly this perspective? I think we're going to learn a lot about Mio today, quite frankly. So it's not my fault that they streamed BDSM 101 on their channel, and we're going to watch it, and that's just going to be the way it goes. And if anyone doesn't want to watch it, they don't have to be here, okay? There's a lot of other places you can be on the internet, but I feel as though I'm professionally obligated to explore this area of study. And we're going to ease into it. And I know everyone wants to get right to the BDSM presentation, but listen, I don't know a lot about BDSM, but one of the things that I do know is that sometimes it's nice to have a little warm up. And so we're going to do a little warm up. We're going to do a 20-minute warm up with this queer crip presentation that I want to watch. And then we're going to watch BDSM 101. And I think that this is going to be about as good as people suspect it is, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm definitely not going to get a sexual harassment lawsuit of any sort. And I'm definitely not going to get clipped out of context making really bad jokes about sex today, because that would never happen. People would never take a joke I make on the internet and then make it out to be like a serious thing. That would never fucking happen. And it's definitely not going to happen today. But this is what we're doing, guys. If you're here for it, you're here for it. Crip theory, we are all disabled because we all require care from others. In the utopia, the disabled caregiver binary will disappear because we will all care for each other. That kind of sounds like Sophie Lewis, doesn't it? Sounds a little bit like Sophie Lewis. Have we scared Mio away yet? Let's see. No, Mio's still here. He's not scared away yet. That's all right. That's all right. All right, so let's just dig into it, guys. We got a lot to watch today. We're going to start off with this queer disability thing. And isn't it fun that you guys can all see your chats on the screen today? Isn't it fun that this is the day that you guys all get to chat in and see your chats on the screen? It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great day. Nothing is going to go wrong. All right. Psychic. How do I know you have Scorpio energy, darling? Okay, let's get this party started. Let's go.
Hi, everybody, and happy Pride Month. My
Oh,
name
why is
Bailey
it so
Hamblin,
soft?
They, she pronouns, and I am an access specialist with Cal Poly's Disability Resource Center. I'm excited to be joining you today for the Pride Talks events with my talk entitled Queer at the Intersection of Queerness and Disability.
Oh, her sound is awful. We might
personally
skip over
identify as
this.
being queer and non-binary, as well as living with several mental.
You know what? No, I can't do this. I didn't realize the sound was this bad. I'm sorry. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't listen to that sound. That sound was awful. We're just gonna go right into the BDSM presentation. How about we just do that? How about we just watch BDSM? I'm not listening to that sound. It was like screeching in my ears. So, false start. We'll do that one another time somehow. Let's just watch the BDSM presentation. Let's see what. Yeah, that was our our very brief warm up spanking. Oh my god. Our brief but effective warm up. Let's go. Let's watch the BDSM thing. Okay. No. There we go.
Alrighty, welcome one and all to an evening with Guy Baldwin. Thank you all so much for joining us. This evening is a special effort between the Central Coast Kink community and the Gala Pride and Diversity Center, and we are so proud to partner together to bring you this incredible event. So I'm just going to jump right to it because you're not here to hear me talk. You are here to hear Mr. Baldwin. So Mr. Guy Baldwin is a California licensed psychotherapist in private practice for 38 years, and he's been an active participant and
We're doing BDSM psychotherapy. Oh, this is going to be great.
thorough observer of the American leather scene since the late 1960s. For nearly 4 decades, Mr. Baldwin has crisscrossed the continent teaching audiences of erotic adventurers how to have less trouble and more fun being kinky.
Oh.
He's authored 3 books and countless essays on a wide variety of lifestyle publications. On a personal note, his book Ties That Bind was the first serious book about this lifestyle that I read, and it paved the way for so much growth and connection in my life and relationships. And his essays.
Remember, guys, BDSM is a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle choice where you get a family of choice to live in your BDSM kinky lifestyle of choice. Listen, I don't care if people do whatever they want to do. It doesn't matter to me at all, but I don't know why we're positioning this as a lifestyle and not a sexual fetish. But that's just me.
On self-acceptance and the profound connections that we can find in consensual power exchange have helped so many find peace and understanding in themselves. In 1989, judges chose Mr. Baldwin to be the second Mr. National Leather Association, and weeks later, another panel chose him to serve as the 11th International Mr. Leather. He is the only man to have held both titles concurrently.
Oh my.
And after the 1993 March on Washington for gay, lesbian, and bisexual rights, he initiated and helped to facilitate the grassroots effort to remove kink practices from the list of paraphilias in the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual used in much of the Western world to classify and diagnose mental disorders. And in 1994, the DSM-4 was released with a more lenient view of kink practices. And when the DSM-5 was released in 2013, kink practices were no longer considered an inherent sign of a mental disorder. No more do we have to fear corrective electroshock therapy, and what doors have opened for mental health professionals and researchers to better understand us as whole people, not just as deviants or broken toys. In 1994, the senior editor of The Advocate, the famous LGBT newsletter, Mark Thompson, included Baldwin in a list of writers, healers, teachers, and visionaries.
Healers?
Gay soul. In 2000, the Leather Archives and Museum named Guy one of 20 centurions, acknowledging him as one of the most important contributors to the leather lifestyle of the 20th century. With Guy Baldwin, you never know exactly what you're going to get, but one thing is for sure. As a lifetime activist, seeker of understanding, and pioneer of radical sexuality, he never fails to challenge listeners by fearlessly speaking truth exactly as he sees it. And without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Guy Baldwin.
Hey, come on, guys. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I was very honored to be asked to participate in the event, and I hope I have something useful for you tonight, wherever you are.
Can you imagine You go into a therapist's office. And by the way, these types of therapists do exist. We still have not gotten into queer psychotherapy as much as we should have, but you can, if you want to have some fun, spend some time during this presentation Googling queer psychotherapy, because what you're going to find is all of these non-binary they them therapists come up, and they're all doing counseling around how to live your best polyamorous queer lifestyle that you can. So this is like a real thing. But imagine you're walking into a therapist's office and the first thing you see are those boots and the hat. I love the left. The left is so funny.
So how shall we proceed?
Well, first, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our panelists.
Please.
I am Serena Ruggles. My pronouns are they, them, or she, her. And
Shocking.
I'm the center coordinator for the Gala Pride and Diversity Center and the president of the board for the Central Coast Kink community. And to my left here.
Hello, my name is Matt Murphy. My pronouns are he, him. I've been involved in kink since 2012, and I have helped organize events down in Los Angeles and in Santa Barbara, including sloshes, play nights at some club parties, and every once in a while, a nice beach trip, which is clothing optional.
Hi, my name is Chris.
This is presented on a college campus.
He, him pronouns. Sorry. And I am one of the board members of the CCKC, or the Central Coast Kink Community. I've been in the community for about 8 years now, and yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is B. My pronouns are they, them. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee Chair of the Central Coast Kink Community, and I am also
Wait. The Central Coast Kink Community has a DEI officer? Does the Central Coast Kink Community have a website that we can look at? Do they have, does the Central Coast Kink Community have a DEI training we can watch about how to diversify kink? Can we please find that?
SDAB centers at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
And so we have our live stream going live right now, and please feel free to submit questions in the chat and we will pull them to ask Mr. Baldwin. And to start us off, Mr. Baldwin, what is the biggest change that you've seen in kink in your lifetime?
The biggest change. This reminds me very much of a final examination on an anthropology final when I was in undergraduate school. There's only one question on the test, and it was describe the universe and give 3 examples. Yeah, the biggest change. Well, once upon a time, when I was a young kinkling, as far as I knew, kink was
Kinkling? Is that like nibbling? Kinkling?
was about gay men, many of whom were into motorcycle culture. And now kink has gone much more mainstream than ever. And that's really the biggest change. Kink is no longer in the closet, as it were, and out and proud and dysfunctional about as often as everybody else is. So yeah, we've joined the human race, I suppose you could say. That's a big change in my lifetime.
Next.
All right, thank you. And once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them into the chat. And a follow-up, just to kind of narrow the field.
Oh shit, you found it?
Broad question that we just threw at you. What changes have you seen during the pandemic, or how do you see this pandemic affecting this community going forward? We've seen, reflections of this, or we've seen a lot of comparisons between this current pandemic and the AIDS crisis. How do you think that this might?
Okay, Reagan found their link tree, but it basically has links to FetLife and Discord. I'm not signing up for a FetLife account, and I'm not going on their kinky Discord. So we might have to put that aside for the moment.
Affect things going forward?
Well, you're asking me a question about the future, and the future is equally unknown and unknowable for everyone. In that regard, it is a level playing field for all humanity. But this pandemic is terrifying in many, many ways.
We're going to find out so much about Mio today. Mio, do you know I have learned that anytime I go down one of these rabbit holes on one of these investigations, I wind up on Pornhub watching fat porn. And I'm not talking about like you guys calling a woman fat that still wears like normal size clothes. I'm talking about 400-pound plus actual fat porn is always the outcome of these little investigations. And that is just not something I want to see right now. And I don't think you want to see that either. So, okay, sometimes limits are all right.
And I think a lot of people have made a big effort to imagine that it's not nearly as serious as I believe it to be. My graduate degree is in science, and that qualifies me as a geek, I think. This is pandemic light that we're confronted with now, in spite of the fact that it's killed hundreds of thousands of people and will continue to do just that. Human populations are growing, and they are pressing up against wildlife in ways that have not happened quite so extensively before. When they're clearing rainforest and putting in agriculture, there's not a supermarket down at the corner. Those populations want what's called bushmeat. And so human populations are in increasing contact with wild animals in forest situations. And as long as that's true, then the opportunity for viruses to jump from animal populations to human populations is only going to expand. And all viruses, all DNA is constantly subject to gamma radiation from outer space. And so mutations are an absolute guaranteed reality. Most mutations are pretty benign, but some mutations, like Ebola, for example, are deadly, or like HIV, very deadly. And in a way, this is a kind of practice pandemic for people. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but life will never be the same. For some silly reason, I thought that when vaccinations became really fairly commonplace, at least here in California, that people would calm down a lot, that life would sort of settle. And in fact, exactly the reverse is true. I find that humanity, at least in California and in the US, I believe in general, has gotten very squirrely. Because once you get used to being isolated and quarantined, then to sort of go back out into the world, what exactly does that mean? How do we do that? How do we party with one another? How do we socialize? You know, you've heard the phrase, use it or lose it. Well, when you don't use social skills, they do get rusty. And we're finding out the extent to which that's true now. The other piece to kink and leather communities, the smaller a population is, the more havoc an outside threat will place on that small community. So a lot of our events got canceled, of course, and postponed, but our events mean more to us than a dentist convention does, because our community
really?
depends on glue and connectivities that other groups don't need. I don't know how this is going to affect us, but I know that we need our events in ways that larger groups just don't. So it's going to play hell with us. It's unpredictable. I don't like the answer, but that's how it looks to me. Aren't you glad you asked?
Yeah.
No, not so much.
Yeah, I'm yes.
So we do have another question here. What is the first piece of advice you would give to someone just starting out with power exchange?
Okay, real quick. Kansas Mama says, when was this from? 3 years ago?
By the way, I'm on call for my patients, and that was my phone. Can you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
Yeah. What was the first piece of advice you would give to someone just starting out with power exchange?
It is my conviction that anything that's powerful that exists in nature can create in exactly equal proportion to which it can destroy. So you think about wind, it exists in nature. It's powerful, it can create and destroy. Water, powerful, creative, destructive. Nuclear energy, powerful, creative, destructive. Love exists in human nature, powerful, creative, destructive. Sexuality, powerful, creative, destructive. And that means that the kind of radical sexuality that we are fascinated with has the power to create in exactly equal proportion to which it can destroy. And drugs, powerful, creative, destructive. I mean, the examples are endless. Religion, powerful, creative, destructive. Fear, powerful, creative, destructive. We can go on and on with all of that. So if you're going to conjure the magic of radical sexuality, you better have a clear moral compass, because if you don't, these energies you'll be at risk that these energies will get away from you. And instead of being a creative force in your life, they can function as a destructive one. So that's the piece of advice I would offer, because your survival may depend on that piece of advice.
That's
See, aren't you
ominous.
sorry you asked?
Never, not at
This
all.
is so bizarre.
So on a related note, one of our questions in the chat. So you're talking about the danger and allure of things that are powerful and experiences that are powerful. And as kink has become more popular and more mainstream, do you think there are things we should look out for and be careful about?
Yeah, it does. You're right
Yes.
about that.
I do.
Can you elaborate?
And by way of offering you an example, some years ago, pardon me, a group in a group somewhere reached out to me and said, we would like for you to come and teach here. Our local community has lost many of its gay men, and we would like to get them back because gay men are such an important contributor to kink awareness and kink education, because
Kink
you guys
awareness.
have been doing it longer. And I said, well, I'm flattered.
Is there a kink flag? Can someone look up and see if someone made a kink flag? Like the kink awareness community? Please, like, does it have like a whip on it?
Thank you. What did you have in mind? And they said, well, we want you to teach a class in edge play. I said, really? Edge play, why is that? Well, it's juicy, it's a sexy topic. And I said, well, who's going to be at this class?
I'm not explaining what that
And they
is.
said, well, we're going to advertise it widely, and your name has a draw, blah, blah. And I said, well, in that case, I decline your invitation. Oh, why is that? Because if anybody can pay $5 as a donation and walk in and learn about edge play, I might as well put automatic weapons in the hands of 6-year-olds.
What? That's not quite the same thing. Okay, Reagan found a flag. Hang on. You want to... This guy wants to seriously compare, like, bringing someone to the edge of orgasm over and over and over and over and over again and not letting them come to a 6-year-old holding a gun. So apparently there is a leather pride flag, and there it is. But I'm a little confused about this because, like, doesn't this look like a police flag? Why is it blue? The leather pride flag is a symbol of leather subculture, as in kink and fetish, subcultures more broadly, including BDSM. Explain the colors. The flag is composed of 9 horizontal stripes of equal width. From the top and the bottom, the stripes alternate black and royal blue. The central stripe is white. The upper quadrant of the flag has a large red heart. De Blase had no specific symbolism in mind when he designed the flag. He once said, I will leave it to the viewer to interpret the colors. Okay, so there is no meaning. But there we go. There is indeed a kink pride flag. You're all welcome.
It's irresponsible. I want no part of it. And you really need to rethink your agenda. Yeah. I don't know how many who've joined us today have ever seen the Disney film, old Disney film, Fantasia.
Fantasia sucks.
But in Fantasia,
a boring movie.
There's a wizard, and he's got a big spell book, and he's casting spells. Mickey is like fascinated with all of this. And the old man, as old men do, we go to bed, we get tired. Old man puts his cap up and his cloak, and he goes to bed. But Mickey has to haul water. So he's hauling water, and he gets the idea that he's going to cast a spell on the broom and make the broom carry the water.
No,
so the broom
no, hang on. Fantasia is an objectively awful, boring movie. I don't know why we're even arguing about this, Mitchell. This is a hill I will die on. My mother traumatized me by buying me that movie on like old school VHS when I was a kid and then making me watch it over and over and over and over and over again. I hated that fucking movie. It was so boring. It was so awful. I still to this day, I am still carrying around this particular childhood trauma to this day. This is how passionately I feel about that movie being awful. Okay.
Does carry the water. But the spell gets away from Mickey, and there's a huge commotion. Everything is flooded. There's a big noise, and it wakes the old man wizard up, and he comes out of his bedroom and he waves his hand and the water goes away. I hope this is ringing a bell for those of you who've seen it. And Mickey is, of course, chastened by this. It's not enough to know how to cast the spell. You have to manage it. One useful way to think about this sexuality is to imagine that you are all captains of your own Starship Enterprise, if you will. And if you want, you can park your spaceship in Earth orbit for the rest of your life and never tire of beautiful views of our planet. Or if you want, you can engage the impulse engines and visit the spectacles of our local solar system. Again, never tiring. But if you're ready, willing, and able to engage warp drive, you can visit destinations beyond time and space with radical sexuality. But in order to do that, you must be ready, willing, and able
Real.
to navigate at
Mhm.
warp speed. And those educations, that knowledge is esoteric. And should not be commonly available to anyone. It's exclusive, not inclusive. You have to exclude people who are not qualified to have certain kinds of information.
Yeah, it's a big safety
See,
consideration.
that's why they needed a DEI person in their kink community, because they are creating an exclusive community, but they really want it to be more inclusive because they have a DEI person. Hey, thanks, Suzanne. I appreciate it.
And that education is so important to making sure that we really are being safe, and that quality of education really does need to be filtered that way. Thank you. Those are really, really beautiful points that you are bringing up. Another question from our live chat. What were play parties like when you first entered the scene? And how did people find or discover the public leather scene at that time?
Well, there wasn't a public leather scene. It was a private underground scene. And I mean, I remember very well, 2 days after my high school graduation, my mother found out that I was gay and banished me. Ain't no homosexual gonna live under my roof. You have a week to pack your things and leave. And small town Colorado mentality. I understood. It hurt, of course, but I went to Denver, of course, the nearest big city. And we find each other because we must. We are pack animals, all of us. And when you are a member of an oppressed minority, you develop sensitivities for your own survival that mainstream.
Did he just call people who are into kink an oppressed minority? I'm pretty sure he did.
Find each other because we must. We are pack animals, all of us. And when you are a member of an oppressed minority, you develop sensitivities for your own survival that mainstream doesn't ever find necessary. I remember as a teenager standing on 16th Street in Denver in front of a big department store called the Denver Dry Goods Company. And I was cruising the man standing next to me through the reflection of the windows on the street because we couldn't look directly at one another. How times have changed. I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but it was sure fun to share that moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for sharing that. The next question that we have for you is, what is something that was done in the day that is no longer a staple in leather or kink?
The room that you're in is so echoey. I didn't hear about half of that.
Oh,
so
no.
please ask again and speak more slowly. Thank you.
What is something that was done in the day that is no longer a staple in leather or kink?
What is something that was done in the day that is no longer a staple in leather or kink?
People like to imagine that back in the day, the leather scene was this homogenous thing that was the same from coast to coast. And of course, that's not the case at all. Every local geographic community had its own things that were routine in that area, but not practiced in any other. So you're asking for a general answer to a specific locality. And so the answer would be different in Philadelphia than it would be in San Francisco or Dallas or San Diego. So the correct answer is I don't know, unless you would ask me about the local community in Denver, Colorado, circa 1902. No, I'm not that old. I don't know. I was a young kinkling, and all I wanted to do was get laid. And of course, nobody would give me the time of day because that kid can't possibly be a good time. He doesn't have any experience. What does he know about how we dance this dance? So, I mean, I couldn't get arrested, never mind get laid. It took a while for people to start paying any attention to me at all. So I wasn't busy noticing what things were popular protocols in that area. I was trying to win friends and influence people, as it were. So I don't have the answer to your question. I'm sorry. You've asked a sociological question, really, maybe an anthropological or an ethnographic one. But I'm not qualified to answer that question. Sorry.
Well, and I think that it speaks to, this mythology that we have about the old guard. And I think that what you said really speaks.
The vibe of this presentation is so weird, isn't it? And I find this is true anytime we do anytime we watch videos where queer people are discussing BDSM stuff, which is more frequent than you might think. Because BDSM is for queer people, BDSM is a play on like they believe they're consensually engaging in the power dynamics of capitalism. So it is actually a thing in the queer community is to be into BDSM. But the thing about the vibes on the BDSM presentations it's like they're never. You always think something is going to be like spicy, but it ends up being heavy. You always think it's going to be like funny, and there are always funny moments, but like overall the presentation just feels very kind of like, it doesn't feel sexual, it doesn't feel inviting, it doesn't feel like something you want to engage in, which is funny because they're talking about like reasonably hardcore sexual practices, but it's so non-sexual. It's kind of like the difference between androgyny and non-binary, where androgyny, like David Bowie, like that's overtly sexual, right? Whereas non-binary is almost purposefully non-sexual, and it has none of that energy. And even this guy, like Mr. Leather himself, I'm not even getting like sexual energy from this. I'm getting like, it's just very like, it's almost awkward to listen to this because it's like virgins trying to figure out how to have sex. It's like they don't, even this guy, it's like, but definitely those students, it's like they're so awkward around each other and they haven't quite kind of figured it out yet. That's the weirdest thing about people that are so into kink, and they view kink and BDSM as like part of their identity. But it's all, yes, it's a LARP. It's a total fucking LARP because there's no sexual energy in this at all. In fact, it's like the very opposite of sexual energy.
Speaks to that. Another question, why do you think that kink is so appealing to so many of us? Do you think it's something in our psychology?
Say capitalism. Say capitalism. Please say capitalism.
Again, the correct answer is I don't know. You've asked a statistical question. And the American taxpayers are not willing to fund research about what makes kink interesting to people.
I can't imagine why.
And so we're not likely to get a very reliable answer to a very interesting question. But that said, if there are 6 ways for me to have sex or to play in an erotic way, then I have far fewer options than if there are 60 ways for me to do that. It's like the difference in cuisine between I have to be careful here now, of course. I didn't used to have to be so careful with language as I do now. The variation in cuisine in Colorado is far less than it would be in India or China, because there are many more ingredients and all kinds of other stuff. We're lucky because our smorgasbord table, our buffet table, if you will, is covered with all kinds of dishes to try.
Wait, Musican says, I read that kink isn't really a sexual practice, especially when you consider trans people who no longer have the capacity for pleasure. It's more about mind pleasure sort of thing. Well, but isn't that true of all sex though? Like, can't you say that of all sex? It's like the fantasy that happens in your mind is almost, if not more so, like important for whatever you end up experiencing. So, yeah, I don't know what this guy's talking about. We're going to keep listening though.
It's a kind of adventurism. We are erotic adventurers. There's a lot more on our buffet table for people to try. You know, when two people get horny, they sort of step up to the buffet table of eroticism, holding a plate. Hey, do you want some of that? No, I've heard that's awful. I don't want to try that at all. How about some of this? I've had that once before and it was pretty good. And somebody else cooked it for me and it was terrible, but I'd be willing to try it again with you. And so we negotiate these experiences with one another because we are in search of rich experience, because life makes that available to us.
Okay. Mio is giving us more insight into his psychology, which I think is really great and generous of him. Kink is just an effed up way of pathologizing normal instincts because they don't want to accept natural law. So Mio thinks that power dynamics are normal and that kink is just a way of saying normal things in a different way. Okay.
A wonderful standard movie that was required for all gay men once upon a time, or else you'd lose your gay card if you hadn't seen this movie. And getting your gay card back when you lose it is, no, you don't want to do that. So you want to keep your gay card. And the film was, oh my, now I'm embarrassed. Most poor fools are starving to death. Auntie Mame is the film, thank you. She says, life's a banquet and most poor fools are starving to death. She's talking to her nephew. She's trying to educate her young nephew about the riches of possibilities. We're lucky. I consider myself extremely lucky to be kinky. And I feel sorry for people who have a narrower field of vision, if you will. Yeah, we're lucky. And, I think people have begun to realize that we're lucky. And the stigma attached to non-standard erotic behavior is being reduced. The other piece is that once upon a time, the only acceptable sexual behavior was that which led to a socially approved pregnancy. It was called the reproductive bias.
But is that really true? Is that actually true? That the only acceptable sexual behavior at any point in history was behavior that led to a pregnancy? I don't buy that for a second. Like, what's the world's oldest profession? How did it become the world's oldest profession if it was all just about, like, having kids? And even among married couples, they're not always fucking to have kids. I mean, maybe that might be like an offshoot of it, but like, I would imagine sometimes they do it just for fun too.
And once that goes away, then the sky's the limit. And that really began, in my opinion, in about 1964.
Well, you know what?
When the
But you know what? It's 1964, also the first mention of queer as anti-capitalism that I've been able to find, 1964. But do you know what's also like, what's funny about these people? They need to convince themselves that they're oppressed in order to like have any purpose in life. And so of course they would convince themselves like most of human history, people just fucked because they wanted to procreate. Like bullshit. But they need to think that because then they're oppressed. Google feminist but submissive. No. 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 I'm not Googling that at all. And just scroll how many articles there are on it. The power dynamics are real and people long for them. Even when they reject the real reason they exist. Okay. I'm still not Googling that.
first birth control pills were introduced in the United States, because then all of a sudden sex, wouldn't automatically risk a shotgun wedding from a angry farmer's daughter, angry farmer's daughter's father. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So the world's become more interesting, and people have begun to realize that they could be erotic adventurers without being struck by lightning. Even family lightning.
Erotic
sometimes.
adventurers.
We certainly do have a way of figuring out how to keep things interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
On that note, how realistic do you think it is for a couple today to live in a total power exchange relationship?
Oh my
24/7,
God.
365?
I think it is possible, but I think the mechanisms for doing that are very poorly understood. Because the people who are into TPE, total power exchange, master slave dynamics, we are the crazy ones that you keep locked up in the attic upstairs that you never trot out for anybody else. And that's been true since I was a teenager. The people who are into lifestyle, full-time.
Did he just say he practiced like full-on power exchange kink as a teenager? Okay.
24/7 action are thought of as over the edge. You're an extremist.
Well, actually, Mio, it's funny that you say that because, hang on, let me find it. Mio, did you ever see the queer rope coverage that I did where we went to the queer rope workshop? Probably not. Well, so maybe on a Socialism Saturday that you didn't watch one time, we accidentally discovered a queer rope workshop that we spent several days watching on Spystream, and maybe we have recordings of the queer rope workshop, but we also found this excellent explainer graphic made by the organization that hosted the queer rope workshop. And what it says is, so you say your kink is not political, whatever, but you practice the rope stuff, but you do this master slave stuff, but you use floggers and whips and canes and all this stuff. But check this out. But you love your sissification so you can play out traditional roles that a woman had to endure and suffer through for hundreds of years. And it also says that your kink is political because some of you guys have hot Nazi fantasies and stuff like that. So actually on this graph, they're kind of saying exactly what you're saying here, which is that people have always had these power dynamics, and sometimes people want these power dynamics, and it's okay to play with these power dynamics in the context of kink because you're doing it consensually. What confuses me is why women aren't more grossed out by the gay sex involved. So there's no reason I should know this information, but I do know this information. I once saw a statistic where like I once read an interview with like a gay porn producer where he was saying like he had all these gay porn websites and he was saying that like 30% of the people who pay to subscribe to his websites are women. So like 30% of the viewers on these like massively large gay porn websites aren't even men. So I don't know what the psychology of that is, but apparently women like watching men get fucked in the ass, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, nobody says that to people who want to practice law 80 hours a week, or people who want to have jobs in ministry of some kind, or work as a volunteer at a food bank somewhere 65 hours a week. Nobody minds if you're full-time at those activities, but to be full-time in the practice of a kind of sexuality is seen as imprudent or not good choices. But for my money, full-time TPE stuff where there's an authority differential, that's where the big rides in the park are, as far as I'm concerned. That's the best part of the amusement park for me. And I don't want to live anywhere else. The master slave community actually named an award after me some years back.
What?
When they approached and said, "We want to name this award after you. Are you okay with that?" And I said, "Don't you have to be dead to have your name on an award?" I don't know. It seems a little too soon for me. I don't think I'm dead yet. Yes, I believe it's possible, but I think the best sort of metaphor I can come up with, imagine, if you will, two people sitting in the front seat of an automobile called DS, master slave, TPE, whatever language you want to use. The dominant sits under the wheel and has control of the vehicle. The engine is always running, but it's the dominant that decides when it's going to be put into drive. No, mostly it's just neutral, and the engine is running quietly in the background, a few RPMs, and we can both hear it. And the sub sits in my passenger seat, prepared to see whatever views I present. But at any moment, either one of them can reach over and take the ignition key and turn it off.
So true. Dictatorship of the proletariat.
And usually they end up talking a lot when that happens.
Ugh.
But it takes both of them to turn the key to turn it back on.
I think that's a really wonderful way to say it. That we both need to turn the key to turn it back on, and that any of us can turn it off.
That's
that's
right.
a really important point.
It's critical, because without consent, it becomes some version of rape or coercion or unwanted exploitation. But you know, if you skate near the edge, that's where the view is the best.
Well, and on that note, we have a question here. Why would somebody choose to be a dominant?
Because it's fun. Because it's just damn fun.
Mia, what do you think? Why would someone choose to be a dominant? What's the psychology behind that?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you getting lost in
I'm going to
memory?
get myself in trouble.
Yeah, from this morning, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Whew.
Pass it back to you now.
Excellent. That was a good 9-word answer. So here's a good question. You talked about the regional aspects of kink. How do you think technology has changed and will continue to change kink moving forward?
I missed the last.
Oh my God.
sentence.
How do you think technology has changed and will continue to change kink?
Will continue to change kink. Well, I mean, remote control butt plugs are really cool. Yeah, I have one,
Wow.
I use it. I'm glad to have it.
The greatest
Because,
technological
technology,
innovation of all
must
time.
serve all of us, and we are no exceptions.
Well, that's why I asked you. That's why I asked you, Mio. That's why I asked you. So you could explain it to all of us. In the context of the remote control butt plug.
So there's that. It put more dishes on our buffet table. There's no doubt about that.
No kidding.
Jet service, jet travel became available to the middle class in the United States in 1957. Prior to that time, only moneyed people could really travel quickly anywhere. But once jet travel became inexpensive, then all of a sudden people who had lived their whole life in rural anywhere could now all of a sudden go to the big city and see how the big city folks did it. And some people found that attractive and other people found it repulsive. And that's why we have red states and blue states.
You know what this is like? Suzanne, you just reminded me of this memory. This is like the day I graduated from college and all of my living grandparents came to Boston and we were all going to go out to dinner together with like, you know, a bunch of other people. So all these people who came to my college graduation, we were sitting around at a restaurant waiting to be seated and my two grandmothers are talking and my grandfather is sitting right there looking like a fucking king. And so my grandmothers are chatting and my grandmother one of them looks to the other and says, and he's taking Viagra and we still have sex. And like very like awkwardly loudly. And my grandfather's just sitting there like smiling again because he's a fucking king. And so like what this is like grandpa trying to talk. It's like the same vibes as when my 80-plus-year-old grandmother announced that my grandfather was taking Viagra and that they're still fucking at a restaurant on my college graduation. It is the same vibe and I'm a little resentful of it, but whatever. My grandfather was awesome, so whatever. I don't even care.
Oh, I didn't go there, did I? I did. I promised myself I wouldn't. It's changed. Yeah. I mean, the gentleman who currently has my focused attention is somebody that I happened to run into in a Zoom chat room about 6 weeks ago.
Zoom kink.
He lives 1,200 miles away. Yeah, technology made all that possible. And thank you, leather gods. Oh, yeah. Yeehaw. If you're wondering what I'm eating, it's gummy bears, of course. Yeah. Because dominants need gummy bears too. Anyway.
The most threatening snack food.
Absolutely.
All right, the next question we have for you is, how are vanilla people impacted by the greater acceptance of kink?
I don't know. I don't know. You should ask some.
Good point.
Because the only I don't have contact with those people. I have lived in an exclusively kinky world by design. Well, since I was 17, and I'm, in dog years, I'm about 212 now. I don't know. I think they're aware of it. I don't think there's a universal response to it. because some non-kinky people are deeply conservative and others are profoundly not.
Well, and perhaps you could speak more on that, because as you're, sharing that you're really mostly socializing within kinky spheres, that's something that I'm really relating to, and I know of, many other kinksters who can really relate to that. Why do you think it is that we create these spaces for ourselves that might be a little bit insular from vanilla communities?
Well, if you've ever heard the phrase, birds of a feather flock together, raise your hand. Because we like to have our reality reflected to us. That's why rich people live around other rich people. That's why Black people tend to live around other Black people. And that's why farmers tend to live around other farmers. And that's why racetrack people tend to live in their community. That's why astronauts tend to live in Houston. Birds of a feather flock together because we like to have our reality reflected to us. And, people will often say, well, doesn't that limit your exposure to the world? Yes, of course it does. And I limit it on purpose because I want my world to feel more comfortable, not less. Just like the people who live in Iowa or Arkansas, they want their world to feel more comfortable, not less.
Well, okay, so Mio says, LOL, women asking what is even the thrill of dominance instead of submission is so funny. These things are always full of red pills. I actually agree with that. Here's an answer. Women have authority and agency in all other aspects of life and fantasize about giving it up according to their natural instincts. For men, it's the exact opposite. But is it though? But is it? Because if men never fantasize about giving up power and authority, then who pays high price dominatrixes? It's like in if anyone ever watched the show Billions, like Billions is a good show for like the first couple seasons, but in Billions you have, what is it? The Southern District of New York district attorney. And he's this like really high powered asshole in real life and this really dominant asshole in real life. And so what does he do when he goes home? His wife is a dominatrix. He goes to high priced dominatrixes. So I don't think you can say this is just about women being powerful in real life and wanting to give it up. I think it's about anyone, and that includes men, because if powerful men in real life didn't want to engage in playing with power dynamics, there wouldn't be high-priced dominatrixes. Women are not going to that shit. Men are going to that shit.
I don't know. You feel like your question's been answered, or?
Yeah. What has been the impact of the changes to the...
Well, yeah, but aren't you talking about the same thing with women? Well, that's different. You're talking about the 0.01% of men who never get talked down to or told no. Aren't you saying exactly the same thing of women, though? So is that like a woman thing or a man thing, or is it just a human thing? Like, if you like, this is like yin and yang. If your life is about balance, if you experience a lot of power in one aspect of your life, you're going to want to get taken out of control in the other aspect of your life. So, well, then again, I'm fairly certain there are more than a couple high-priced dominatrixes in the world. So how do they all manage to stay in business? How do they all manage to be high-powered, high-class, high-priced dominatrixes if it's not more common than we might think it is? Because maybe it's just human nature. I don't know. This is kind of off topic, but it's a little bit of a boring presentation, so I'm having a debate in my head. I don't think that that's... You think that most women in the world have total agency and responsibility? Really? Really? You think most women in the world are completely powerful in all aspects of their life? I don't know if I agree. I bet you there are more than you think there are. All right. The debate continues.
The DSM on the average kinkster.
Well, first of all, I don't know any average kinkster.
I wonder if ChatGPT can tell me. Hang on.
I don't. I think we're all, average is a word that belongs in the world of mathematics.
How many high-priced dominatrixes are there in the United
think about that for a minute. When the language of mathematics is used to make assessments of social diversity, you're at risk for misunderstanding all kinds of things.
Hang on. Here is what ChatGPT says. The US BDSM sex toy market was valued at approximately $1.4 billion in 2023. Professional, there is no. Okay, high-end dominatrixes can command substantial fees. For instance, sessions with Manhattan-based dominatrix Miss Kitty LaRue start at $225 per hour and extend up to 12 hours. Clients span various age groups, with notable increase in interest among baby boomers seeking to explore or revisit BDSM. Okay, there's not an estimation for how many of these people there are, but supply and demand would say that you can't charge $255 an hour for something unless there is a certain amount of demand for that thing. Ergo, there is more demand than there is supply. Ergo, there's probably more high-priced dominatrixes than you think.
And for my money, there's more than enough misunderstanding to go around now. I'm a very average guy. You wouldn't believe it to talk to me. But if you watched me move through my day, you'd see that I have a double sink and I have dishwashing liquid and I have a mirror in my bathroom area, and it gets dirty and I have to clean it too. My car doesn't have a chauffeur. I drive, I have to pump the gas, I have to look at the oil. We have a lot in common. And I like that about us.
Yeah,
we
I
have
know.
far more in common than we have as differences, I think.
Again, Mio, I have to say, if this was true, there wouldn't be so much fetish porn. I don't think this is a man-woman thing. I think this is human beings acting out their unlived selves thing. I think you're trying to make it a man-woman thing because you need it to be a man-woman thing because your entire worldview is built around the man-woman thing, but... No, we're not, though. Mio, come on.
Yeah, I know that one of the really common responses we have from people who are just coming to their first event, I don't know how many times I've heard this. Wow, you're all so normal. You're so much more normal than I was expecting you to be. I think that's the most common response that I get.
That's because we put on a good front. We're not normal.
Yeah, we're good at dressing normal.
It's all an act.
Normal is another word from the land of statistics.
Say normativity, say normativity, say normativity.
Is common versus uncommon. In other words, it appears with a greater frequency. It's again a statistical thing, but it's
this is so boring.
Useful, I think.
I'm literally dying.
I'm glad I am not common. I feel blessed. I feel lucky that I am not common. Now, understand, being uncommon carries with it all kinds of unpleasantness. and risk. But
porn sites will put on the homepage whatever they want to be on the homepage. The last time I accidentally went to a porn site, I got served tranny porn for no good reason. There was no reason for me to see fucking tranny porn. I don't believe that tranny porn is the most popular porn on the website, and yet there it was. There it was on the homepage for no good reason. So this is not a good argument at all. There are sections on these sites that haven't, how many, like, I cannot even believe you're actually making this argument in an intellectually honest way. There is no possible, it's not my algorithm. I had never been on the site before, and I certainly never looked for tranny porn, which I think is gross.
But if you
You're not being intellectually honest. You're not fucking being intellectually honest.
want a wider world, you have to take a wider range of chances. Safety is a drug. And remember, drugs can be creative or destructive because they're powerful. But safety can be a drug that makes a person's world smaller than it needs to be. But you know, I'm above all other things.
Yeah, apparently Mio and I need to have a debate about BDSM. Nothing could go wrong with that. What could go wrong with that plan? Just a friendly debate about BDSM.
I am a huge champion of self-determination because I believe self-determination is the bedrock and foundation of freedom.
Imagine the research I would have to do.
You are free to choose to fail if you wish. That is your prerogative. I remember as a kid, Guy is not performing up to his capabilities. And I was made to feel very guilty about that. Later, after spending way too much money on therapy, I realized, well, what the hell? They're my capabilities. If I don't want to work up to them, that's my choice. Shut up. I have a right to fail. I have a right to screw up my relationships. I have a right to be lonely. I have a right to be successful. I have a right to engage in unhealthy behaviors.
So true.
I have a right to risk other people's lives, but they are not going to be happy with it. And I should expect repercussions. Sound familiar? Oh my God, my lightsaber has arrived. I had it in the shop. Back. I feel much better now.
It's a perfect beam of light behind you.
Yeah.
And in that conversation about safety and stepping out of that comfort zone, what role does self-acceptance play in that process? Learning how to fully embrace and love that kinky part of ourselves that we might have been taught to, that was shameful and wrong and something to be hidden.
Well, it's hard for me to hear that question. Pardon me. Lately, my voice has become less reliable than it used to be. When a client walks into the office, one of the things that you have to do is figure out where the pain is in that person's life. And quite often they'll tell you where they, excuse me a second. Quite often clients will tell you where they think it is. And it may be there, but it may not be there. It may be elsewhere.
So true.
And of course, then the therapist has to say, okay, this person needs that kind of help. But a good therapist will then have to assess what the skill set is. Can that person achieve what they want? Do they have the internal skill set or capabilities? I know you want to be a rocket scientist, but you have an IQ of 83. That's going to probably be a little bit out of your reach. So you want to try to find out exactly what the individual can achieve and help them do that. And then you have to help them accept the stuff they can't achieve. Self-acceptance. Nobody asks to be different. Nobody asks to be uncommon. At no point did anybody ever say, hey, you want to be common or uncommon? Raise your hand. We didn't choose that. I didn't choose to be kinky. I feel like those orientations, that orientation fell out of the sky and into my life. It's what I chose to do with it. You know, there are lots of people for whom homosexuality falls out of the sky into their lives, and they can embrace it or they can argue with it. They can wrestle with it, or they can go out and buy something pink and wonderful, or something black and leather and equally wonderful. Yeah. Self-acceptance. Easier said than done. Because, you know, when parents decide to get pregnant, they sign up to have a kid that's inside the box. They don't sign up to have a kid that's outside the box because they want a kid they know how to parent or think they do. So, you know, as a kid ages, age 3, age 4, age 5, parents begin to suspect, oh, I didn't get an inside the box kid. I got an outside the box kid. And some parents are cool with that, and other parents are not. And we can understand why some parents are not cool with that, because what parent wants to feel incompetent? Answer, none. Parents want to feel competent and do their best to try to feel confident, all other things being equal. You know, none of them are raging heroin addicts, or, well, some are, and that's a different conversation. Anyway, in order for a parent to feel confident about being a parent, it's always nice when all of the social institutions support that. Church, family, state, school, law. But of course, you know, my mother, third generation Italian Catholic peasant, she found out I was gay. She exiled me because nothing in her world equipped her to have an outside the box boy. Nothing. Not her fault. Is this making sense?
No.
Definitely.
No,
Yeah.
it's not
I
making
wish
sense
that
at
we
all.
had a crowd here.
One of the things that's kind of like interesting to me is I think that listen, no one is making the argument that everyone who does BDSM is queer. Okay. What I think we're seeing here is this is a guy that this is just his sexual fetish, whatever. He wants to live this, like, whatever, but he is not doing this as a political statement. This is who he is and this is what he wants, and that's fine. But the students are doing this as a political statement. Like, he's old school. They're doing this as a political statement because they're making a comment on the power dynamics of capitalism and all this stuff. And I think that's part of why it's so awkward from them, because this is not really who they are. I mean, some of them might be into this and maybe they like getting spanked, or maybe they like doing the spanking, or like whatever the fuck. But like, they're talking about this from two different perspectives. They're talking about it for two different reasons. Okay? Bro, I'm sorry. I know you're having a lot of feelings in my chat right now. You don't know what you're talking about. Queer is a political philosophy. Queer has nothing to do with being gay or being trans or any of these things. If you want to learn about that stuff, you're happy to stay here. But please stop ranting your feelings in my chat, because it's not what we're doing here right now.
So that you can, it's so hard to do things on Zoom where all you can see is, I think all you can see is my smiling face going, I wish that we had a crowd where you can hear everybody laughing and actually reacting to you.
I don't know what you're looking at. I'm watching sumo wrestling in Tokyo. What are
That, honestly, that sounds a little bit more satisfying sometimes.
But really, parents, God love them. Oh, see, I can't say stuff like that anymore, I gotta tell you, one of the things that's been hardest for me to observe is how fragile young people have made life for yourselves. I mean, I can't talk to anybody until I find out what their pronouns are, or else I'm an idiot. Or insensitive.
I fucking told you. He is not doing this as a political statement. He's doing this just because this is what he likes. Those fucking kids are doing it as a political statement. Let's listen to the unexpected railing on pronouns again. Thank you, Leatherman.
Made life for yourselves. I mean, I can't talk to anybody until I find out what their pronouns are, or else I'm an idiot or insensitive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried. Yeah. See, your face just tells me that I am treading on a minefield. And I must tell you, ladies and gentlemen,
I love this.
See, I can't even use ladies and gentlemen anymore, can I? All of a sudden, there's all kinds of language that is frowned on. And I must tell you all, it pisses me off no end, because language is the tools of Shakespeare. And when it starts to shrink, I become worried about the shrinkers. So yeah, I'm on a minefield right now, and I know it. And y'all can breathe.
He doesn't give a fuck.
It's my minefield. You didn't put me there. I chose to go there.
So speaking of
I'm not done. I'm not quite done.
Sorry, please go on.
Did you notice the Dom come out? I'm not done. This is so great.
My minefield. You didn't put me there. I chose to go there.
So speaking of
I'm not done. I'm not quite done.
Oh, sorry. Please go on.
The speed with which people have declared themselves victims of microaggressions. I mean, I got a sliver yesterday. Does that qualify as a microaggression? And somebody said something to me that pissed me off a little bit. Does that qualify as a microaggression? I'm worried that people are forfeiting durability in their psychologies.
So true.
Because
yeah,
if we're looking for a world where no one is offended by anything anyone else does, then what we've created, I fear, is a world of gray, homogeneous stuff. And I want vibrant colors I want strong noises. I want sounds that are rich. And I don't want to have to worry about offending someone because they don't like the way I look like their great uncle.
This guy's the best.
I'm worried about your generation right now. I don't have to worry long because I'm an old piece of work and I'll be out of your hair pretty soon. But when I see how fragile and how easy it is, or how easy it's become to declare, I've been victimized by someone's insensitivity, I don't know what to do with that. I'm not an evil guy. I don't set out to harm anybody. Everybody is emotionally clumsy. Everybody is emotionally clumsy. But if you change the bar too much, then there's no way to be anything but emotionally clumsy. And then you have generations of people who are walking on eggs all the time. And I got to tell you, when you're walking on eggs, it's very hard to dance.
Well, and I think that it's interesting that you talk about
Rant off.
Struggle session, struggle session,
well,
struggle session.
Interesting that you talk about homogenization, whereas I think that you know, I don't necessarily speak for everybody in my generation, but I do think that for me at least, a big part of that is celebrating that diversity and acknowledging that there is more diversity than we've seen in the world previously, and
I agree.
embracing all of that. And so I personally see it as a greater embrace and of all of these different expressions. And though I to your point, it's a hard process to learn and unlearn all of these new things, and these are pretty tremendous changes that we're going through right now.
Humans are unbelievably adaptable. We really are. There were once upon a time 7 different species of Homo.
So basically what just happened, this is so fucking brilliant. So this guy goes on a whole rant about how he hates pronouns and microaggressions are stupid, and I'm you know what? I almost gave up on this. I was like, this is boring. I don't want to watch this anymore. Debating with Mio about kink in the chat is actually more entertaining than this presentation. And I was about to give up and just call it a day. And then this guy starts ranting about pronouns. And I'm like, okay, I'm back. I'm paying attention now. But then what happened after he ranted about pronouns and microaggressions is these students on the panel, they're getting really uncomfortable with this. And then the lead student is like, you know, the reason we use pronouns is greater inclusivity and it's welcoming more people in. And I understand this is almost exactly what this person just said. I understand it's hard for old people to learn this stuff and you have a lot of things to unlearn. And then he pops in, he's like, no, bitch. No. We're incredibly adaptable. This old guy rules. This is so great. I'm so glad they hired him.
We're Homo sapiens. There was other different branches of Homo. I love sometimes the ironies in English are just too wonderful. But our adaptability is the reason that this species.
He's a good role model.
But our adaptability is historically based on genetics, not social evolution. And so the faster these social evolutions take place, the less well-equipped we are to keep up with them. And that creates social anxiety. The most common psychological diagnosis made today is generalized anxiety disorder, and no one should be surprised about that.
Well, and I think that leads us very nicely into our next question, which has been very highly requested in our chat.
Oh dear.
This was where I almost interrupted you earlier. So as a psychologist, how do you think your profession has shaped your kink? And how do you think kink has changed your profession?
Oh God. Oh no.
First of all, I'm not a psychologist. I'm a psychotherapist. Not the same thing. In order to be a psychologist, you have to have a very specific doctorate, and I do not. I never wanted one.
I
How
apologize
do
for
I think
misspeaking.
my profession has changed? What?
I was just apologizing for misspeaking earlier.
How do I think it's changed my kink? A great deal. As far as I know, I'm the first out kinky mental health professional on the planet.
Oh, he started it.
think.
Okay.
And as such, my goal was to make the world a safer place for other kinkoids like myself.
Is there like has there been a rash of hate crimes against people who like spanking? Like, what the fuck am I missing? Is there like who is targeting people because they like to wear leather and whip each other? It makes no sense.
And in order to do that, it meant that I could not be arrested. I could not behave in any way that would risk bringing shame upon any of my minorities. So I played my professional role in the world very conservatively. That meant that I couldn't go out to, or at least I told myself, it was risky for me to go out to a leather bar, a gay leather bar in the town where I practice, Los Angeles, because a client, past or present or future, might see some boy licking my boots, for example, in public and say, oh, screw that guy, he's figured it out. Or how dare he display blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to complain to the state licensing board because he shouldn't be doing that. So there were vulnerabilities of me going out and living my life honestly.
I don't think this is actually the question, but
publicly and so forth. So I didn't do that in Los Angeles because Los Angeles is where my clients past, present, and future come from. And I owe it to them not to contaminate their treatment with my personal behavior. But boys in other towns can certainly lick my boots because that's not where my clients come from, and I'm good with that. So yeah, I chose a profession that would help me make a better world for kinkoids, but not necessarily for myself. That was a sacrifice.
it was a profound sacrifice that you couldn't go to a kink club in Los Angeles.
And with full understanding of what I was doing.
Just a really profound sacrifice, very meaningful.
I've paid a price for it. There's no doubt about that.
Yep, definitely.
But sometimes being a pioneer comes with its own price tag. And I realized I was in a position.
It's a very high level of oppression.
Because I have an odd collection of gifts. I do. And I have placed them in your service. All of you. I've placed my gifts in your service. And the reason I was able to do that is that I love all of you. I don't like very many of you, but I do love all of you. If that makes sense.
Oh, sure. Be of love. That is all that we are.
Love
I don't know
and all that
any
stuff.
kinky people, by the way, who couldn't equally say, I love all of you, but I don't like very many of you. No, I think we all feel that way at some level.
So why was it necessary to change the DSM?
Well, I knew there was a particular case that happened. Some police knocked on the door of a home. I think it had to do with unpaid alimony to a former wife. I'm not sure because this is ancient history and I can't remember it all in detail. But the police came in because they had a warrant and they noticed videotapes of BDSM play between the man and the woman who were living there. And the police immediately took the children away and put them in protective care. So that couple lost their children because there was evidence. And at the hearing, yes, I consented. I was fine with the fact that he whipped the hell out of me 4 Sundays ago and blah, blah, blah. But consent is no defense against assault. And so the couple lost their children. And I was horrified by that because that's unfair. Now, maybe they were bad parents and there were 55 other reasons they should have lost their kids, but not that one. And I realized that as long as the mental health care profession said it was an illness or it was diagnosable, that the law would never change, could never change. And so the mental health diagnostic manual had to be changed before the law would follow. That's why the DSM was pivotal.
Thank you so much. Our next question, what changes do you still hope to see for kinky people?
I've stopped doing that. What changes do I hope to see? The anthropologist in me, it was my undergraduate major, one of them, says I'm too old to be entitled to an opinion about what changes should come, because it's young people who must forge the changes that y'all need. So for me to think about what changes do I see coming, I would rather play and have fun with my guy than spend time thinking about what should be in your future.
Okay.
I
can't take this anymore. I can't. We want it back to boring. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. This is so fucking boring. This should not be this boring. This sucks. Queer sex sucks. Queer ruins everything. And even though this old guy is just like going along with this and he's kind of based and he told them all to shove it with their pronouns, I can't take it anymore. It's back to boring. You know what? I tried. I thought this was going to be a good one. And it was. I mean, that pronoun rant was pretty funny. But it's terrible. And this is at a university, guys. This is at a university. This is at a university. This was at a university. Cal Poly, Gender and Sexuality Department. This YouTube channel is a virtual extension of the Gender and Sexuality at Cal Poly, which is comprised of Gender Equity Center, LGBTQ plus campus life, men and masculinities, and houses blah, 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 blah. So this is what your money is paying for when you send your kids to school. They're going to bore. They're not even, listen, man, they're not even going to good BDSM presentations. Not that I would know what that looks like, because I obviously would never do such a thing. But it's not like they're even going to interesting BDSM presentations. They're going to fucking boring BDSM presentations. And that's really what people should be most offended by. So that's all I have for today. We're going to be back at 9 p.m. tonight. I think Jennifer wants to talk about like gargoyles or something at 9 p.m. for Disenrage. But I'm going to try to find something better to watch tomorrow that's a lot more entertaining than the BDSM presentation. And hopefully we can find something good and cringe and awful and crazy and all that stuff. And I'll be back tomorrow. And that's all I have, guys. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here? not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.